All right, let's welcome back to Straight Fire. Man, this guy's as plugged in as anybody on the ground in Vegas. I know, listen, some of these guests don't like it when I gas them up, but Patrick Everson's been doing the some of the best stuff out of Vegas for the last few years. He got snatched up by Fox. He's at the Better Collective. He's everywhere. Patrick, how you doing, man?
I'm very good, Jason. Thanks a lot for having me on the podcast this week.
Yeah. I know you're super busy, so we won't take up too much of your time, but I've had a history with Thanksgiving week. I always struggle. I'm sure other people talk about this. There's just so much happening with travel, family, logistics. You got kids home from college. My wife, if she asks me to even touch a turkey, I'm like totally rattled. I'm like, this is just out of my domain of expertise. I can't handle the. So it's like the NFL makes it tough. So we're recording this Tuesday afternoon. There's three potentially great games Thursday.
Mhm.
There's a crazy game Friday, Bears Eagles. And then you got the full Sunday slate. You got family. You got just a lot going on. I'm curious, how do you handle this week in working with the casinos and getting down bets yourself?
Well, like you said, it's definitely challenging. You get the triple header on Thanksgiving Day, so back to back to back, and like you said, there's turkey in the oven and stuffing being made and all that other stuff. And got my son's home for the week. We got two dogs in the house. It's a rat race around here. So, uh, no, look, it is a little. It makes it a little more challenging to get the bookmakers' perspective because the
Mm-hmm.
week kind of caves in on them as well. And the one thing that I feel like I get to do a lot of the fun stuff in this industry, and that's talking to the folks behind the counter and having them tell me, explain why things are happening, where the money is coming in, where the sharp guys are, where the public people like me and perhaps like you. Um, and what their needs are going to be. But the week caves in on them really quickly too. Some of them are traveling, some of them are so they might be short staffed this week. So it definitely makes it a challenge for everybody involved. The content side, the bookmaker side, the podcast side with you.
Yeah.
It's everybody's up against the clock this week.
And let's be real, Patrick, you look around and it's like quarterbacks around the league. We don't know who start as of right now. There's so
Mhm.
many injuries. Jordan Love separated shoulder. Patrick, I watched video. He didn't hand off with his left hand on
Mhm.
Sunday. And now he's got to go into Detroit and face Hutchison and company. We
Mhm.
still don't have full clarity on if Joe Burrow is going to start. We think he is, but the
Mhm.
line isn't really acting like it.
Mhm.
CJ Stroud expected back maybe for the Texans. I don't know. So I am curious around the league with the quarterback stuff. How do you handle that?
Well, it's the same as you would, or certainly the public, certainly the sharper bettors are all over. It's all about when the information gets there and how soon you can bet it. If you're trying to beat it, if you're trying to beat a number or get a better number, it's definitely going to be a challenge this week. I feel like, I mean, just from the conversations I've had with a couple of odds makers this week, they feel pretty comfortable that Burrow is going to play Thursday
Okay.
night. I kind of thought that when Cincinnati didn't win last week, that might tilt the table the other way. I mean, they really, I don't think, can get to the playoffs. If they had
No.
won last week with the way that the AFC North has played out, I was like, okay, you can't give up yet. You're 2 games behind Baltimore, and Baltimore 5 weeks ago was 1-5.
Yeah.
So why give up? And I'm not saying they should give up now necessarily. I just thought maybe they might rethink that. But from the bookmakers I've talked to, they feel like Burrow is going to be the guy on the field come Thursday night. You make a great point with C.J. Stroud, but Davis Mills, I think they're 3-0 with him now, aren't they, or something like that? And their defense
Uh,
is just lights out. Their
They
defense
might
is
be.
lights
Well,
out.
I think two and well as a defense, he filled in for Stroud when he got hurt, and they lost
Mhm.
that one to Denver. But
Okay,
otherwise,
okay.
you're right. He's been pretty damn good, or
Yeah, well, on the
solid, solid.
defense, he's driven the bus and kept it on the road.
Yes.
And the defense in Houston is just lights out. So if he can do that with that defense, as we saw, last week against the Bills, then they may give the Colts some trouble, even though the
Yeah.
Colts are off to a super super good start.
And I didn't even mention Baker Mayfield. Do we feel
Mhm.
he's going to start this AC joint sprain because that's a big one for Tampa to try to hold off Carolina in the division? I mean, I don't think Carolina's good, but Teddy Bridgewater looked horrific. I mean, he
Yeah,
looked unplayable.
exactly. And Tampa had such a good first few weeks, and they were really entertaining to watch, and they're still entertaining to watch. And they were ahead of they led the Bills 32-31 in the fourth quarter of that game at Buffalo.
They did.
They've just had, I mean, obviously we need to keep an eye on the Mayfield injury. That's going to be big this week. They've just had I mean, look, they had to go play the LA Rams in Los Angeles. I believe they played Detroit in Detroit. They had to
Yes.
play Buffalo in Buffalo. They've had a ridiculously hard schedule. Or they would be in a little bit better shape than they are right now.
Mhm.
I don't think anybody expected them to be in a position where after 5 weeks or 6 weeks, where all of a sudden the Carolina Panthers are the team that's breathing down their necks, which is, kind of hard to fathom. Like you said, I don't think Carolina's a good team, but if Mayfield it isn't back and healthy in very short order, that division becomes more wide open.
Yeah, a little up for grabs. Real quick before we dig into the game
Hmm.
specifically, Survivor. You write
You
about
bet.
Circus Survivor a lot.
Mhm.
Um, it's a tough week. I mean, they all are if you're still alive. And I know it's funny because me and a buddy are alive in a good one out here in LA, and
Mhm.
it's like, oh boy, what do we pick and who do we go with? Now the one in Vegas is way more difficult because you have to pick a Thanksgiving Day game,
Mhm.
and the games are good. I think everybody was kind of saving the Ravens or Eagles for this spot. Is that how I read it?
I think they were saving the Ravens or trying to save the Ravens and the Eagles for this spot if they could. Depending, there were a couple of weeks where there was just an absolute ton of carnage.
Yeah.
I think week 5 was one of those weeks. There was one, maybe it was week 8 or 9, but there's been a couple of weeks where there's just been a boatload of carnage in this contest. And because of that, some people may have had to, if they had multiple entries, for example, a lot of people do have multiple entries in this contest, by the way,
Yeah.
and they may have had to use up teams. I mean, you really got to look ahead to that Thanksgiving week because you got to play 2 the week of Thanksgiving. You got to make 2 picks the week of Christmas as well. But
Oh,
if they were able to save them, they got to feel pretty good about this. They certainly won't mind having the Eagles at home against the Bears on Friday. That would be a popular pick. And the Ravens are going to be in the touchdown range or so, or whatever it is against the Bengals. But Packers Lions should be a really good game. Chiefs Cowboys, both those teams really need to win. If Joe Burrow's playing Thursday night, that suddenly becomes a much more interesting
certainly.
game. So
Yeah.
it's going to be hard. At Circus Survivor, you got to do one of those 4. Either one team from the Thanksgiving Day games or one from Black Friday when the Bears and Eagles play. So it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes. And you got to come back and you've got to pick either the Sunday game or a Sunday game, a team on Sunday or a team on Monday night. And
Mm.
it's going to be interesting to see if there's some carnage this week based on having to make 2 picks. It certainly makes it challenging for the logic that goes into it, the game theory that goes into deciding who to play where and when gets a lot more difficult this week.
I'm assuming in a traditional one, people would be looking at the Chargers in this spot and at home against the Raiders. And I would guess maybe Miami. Can you do that, or is that too risky? The Saints off a brutal loss. The Saints are terrible. Looks like Kamara's not going to
Hmm.
go. But can you trust Miami in any way, shape, or form? I mean, who knows what those guys were doing in South Beach on the bye week?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I'd trust Miami. I mean, like I said, some people are going to be in a position where they're going to have to probably trust Miami. They may have, used their bullet on some of these other teams earlier in the season based on the way some of these weeks have played out. But I'm with you. I mean, the Chargers is probably, the perceived no-brainer of the week. That's the second largest spread of the week.
Yeah.
Seattle is the largest
Well,
number
wait,
against
Patrick, it
the
was
against the
10,
Minnesota
right? And
Vikings
then it was 10, and then it's down to 9.5. Is that accurate?
at on the Chargers.
Chargers, yeah.
Yes, they're down to 9.5 now, and I'm double checking the openers. It depends on where you were at. Superbook, for example, here in Las Vegas, opened 9.5, went to 10 very quickly within like a
Oh,
few minutes,
oh,
within a
that's
few
good.
minutes on Sunday, and then peeled back to 9.5 on Monday. So a little jockeying there between nine
So
and a half
here's
and
the thing.
10.
That is that just a number grab of the double digits, or is that sharp money seeing something?
I think it might be a combination of both.
Okay.
And a lot of sharp bettors play numbers. They're not even
Yeah.
looking at teams. I've heard some of these guys say, "Hey, it's not so much the team, it's the number that
The
I'm that
number,
I'm
yeah.
looking to get." So I think it may have been a combination of both. For some bettors, they were like, "Okay, that's perfect. I don't want to, I feel like 10 is a number where I'll take the dog, and maybe 9.5 for whatever reason is a number where they won't, where maybe they'll take the favorite. But it was probably a little of both. Might have been a numbers game, might have been a team thing. Maybe they think Las Vegas kind of holds it together this week and just keeps it close in a division game. But boy, that team has just not looked good. And I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I've written this a couple times and said it on a couple of other uh, podcasts and such that I've been on, I wouldn't bet the Raiders with your money at all. No, I don't even care what the spread is. I wouldn't bet the Raiders with
Definitely.
your money. But the Chargers, if you've got the Chargers, you certainly want to try to use them this week.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised that Seattle is double digits now. It looks like against Minnesota.
I don't think
Um,
anybody has them left. Do you?
I don't think so either. No.
Yeah.
But if you've got the Chargers, I'd feel pretty good about that. Vegas has been terrible, and the Chargers know they need to get it together now.
Yeah.
If they, if Denver's got this crazy win streak going, my Denver Broncos, as the helmet behind me shows,
Oh yeah.
smoke and mirrors. I'm not buying it, but I'm glad they are where they are. I'm very happy with this. But I look at the schedule and I think if they get to 12 wins, that'll be a good season. So that's only three more wins
Of
away. They've
course.
got a tough road to go down the next several weeks to get there, including games against the Chargers and the Chiefs and a couple of key road games and so forth. So, yeah, if you got the Chargers, I if I had the Chargers, I'd be playing the Chargers this week, I
Yeah,
think.
for sure. All right, real quick, the Thanksgiving games.
Sure.
I like Green Bay getting 3 if you can. The most of them are gone. Although it
hmm
looks like maybe it's headed back. The Lions have a lot of injuries. And Patrick, you look at the Lions' schedule. Like they play any good teams in the last like 7 weeks? No,
hmm
their wins are over a lot of backup quarterbacks. And I mean, they struggled against Jameis Winston last
hmm
week. I don't know if I see it. And I think this Packers defense is the best unit on the field. So I took the points. I don't love taking 2.5. I probably should just take the money line. I think Packers can win this outright.
I think they probably can. And what they've seen I mean, the line certainly says that this should be a really good game. And I agree with
Yeah.
you on the Packers defense. That is a that is a really good defense. I just literally before I got on the podcast with you today, Jason, I went back and forth with Casey Degnan. He's the risk manager here in Vegas at the Superbook,
Okay.
which is certainly a widely respected book. And they've had this little dance going between three, 2.5, and three. And they're actually three here at the Superbook. And
Hmm.
what Casey Degnan said was we took some sharp money at 2.5 on the Lions. He said ticket count is about 2-1 in favor of the Lions. However, and again, this is early. A ton more money is going to get bet into this game by the time we get to Thanksgiving Day morning here in the best time zone with me and you,
Yeah.
and afternoon out east. But he did say more money on the Packers so far on the spread.
Okay.
He said he doesn't think this is going to turn into like a one-way game. He thinks both teams will get plenty of action. However, he notes that he thinks there'll still be more Lions tickets by kickoff, and Detroit, more importantly, is going to be in a lot of parlays and a lot of money line parlays and so forth. Money line parlays are kind of the thing that every week the bookmakers have to beat. You have to beat the public on these money line parlays where they just pile up favorites and hope to bet a little to win a lot.
Right.
And the Lions are going to be in the money line parlays for sure. So more than likely they're gonna want the Packers to not only cover, they're going to want the Packers to win that game outright. And if they get that right out of the gate on Thursday, it's a total table setter for the rest of the day for the bookmakers, and it kind of ruins everything on our side of the
Yeah.
counter as we all have to reconfigure what we may want to do with the
Yeah.
second and third games.
Chasing, baby. So let me ask you. Just to recap, you said more tickets on the Lions, but money on the Packers.
Yes, sir.
Interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, and that's on the spread.
Yeah.
What will be the difference maker, though, like I noted, is moneyline parlays. Detroit's going to be very popular there. So Superbook, and I'm sure a lot of the national, the FanDuels and DraftKings of the world and BetMGMs and such, they'll probably want that too. They'll want to see the Packers find a way to win that game on the road.
Yeah, I haven't seen any update on Jacobs. I'm assuming they held him out last week so he could play in this one, and
hmm
they'll need him because I mean that Lions defense is just not great. I mean I know
hmm
Hutchinson's good, but the secondary's banged up. Yeah, so I'm on Packers. Chiefs Cowboys is
hmm
interesting. It looks like this has come down a lot. What I don't like is that the Cowboys appear to be a public dog. Is that a fair statement?
I think it's fair to say they were certainly a public dog last week.
Yes.
Very, very public dog against the Eagles and come back, made everybody's day. I took them in game while they were. I should have taken them while they were way down, but I was like, I'm not taking them while they're way down. I took them when they were down a touchdown
Oh,
and thought, okay, I'm dead in the water. This is not happening. But it ultimately happened, and anybody who took Dallas on the spread obviously was very happy with that as well. Yeah, this has come down some. If you go back to last week, Jason, the look ahead line was Chiefs 3.5, and then it went to 4
hmm.
for a few days, and then when they came back and reopened this game on Sunday, it was Chiefs 3.5. Now we're down to 3. Dallas is +3 even money. Chiefs are -3, -116. That's from the Superbook. And again, with Casey Degnan, the risk manager there at the Superbook, he noted in this one, more tickets and money on the Chiefs spread and money line, which surprised me a little. I do think there's going to be some comeback on Dallas here based on what happened last week. And
Yeah.
that's how Degnan expects this to unfold as well. He said with Dallas winning last week, he thinks both sides are going to see a lot of support here. And really, what's been the more interesting, I guess, maybe not more interesting, but what's gotten more action is the total on this. It's up 1.5 points. It's out to 52 from a
That's
50 and a half
ridiculous.
opener, 52 points. And Kate Degnan said, "Hey, I don't see that stopping." He said, "Straight bet and parlay liability is going to be on the over in that game," and he's already seeing it. Even though we're early in we were still 2 days out, and people aren't really necessarily focused in on these games yet. They're already seeing the liability stack up on the over here, but he thinks this is going to be a good two-way game. And what he said was, the Cowboys do tend to get a lot of public action, as you noted, and as we
Sure.
discussed, super trendy dog against the Eagles last week, and very fortuitous to get there. He thinks in this case though they'll want the Cowboys because he thinks the Chiefs will probably be involved in more of the parlays, if not the straight bets, and so they wouldn't mind seeing the Cowboys get another outright win as a home underdog.
Yeah, I did get over 52. You said it's up to 52 and a half?
Yeah, 52. No, it went from 50 and a half to 52 at Superbook. Hasn't gone to
Okay.
52 and a half yet.
So it's interesting because you look at the Cowboys on the road. Now, some of these are outside, but they did not look good outdoors at Jacksonville. I know they led that game, but they ultimately lost. The pick six hurt. They went outdoors to Buffalo, lost. They went outdoors to Denver, lost. And then they came home against Indy and did not look great, didn't cover. I mean, you got to go back to beating Marcus Mariota, or was it Jaden Daniels? Maybe I forget who was a quarterback in that game, but like their last two covers were against the Raiders and Commanders. I don't think the Chiefs are as good as everybody thinks.
Hmm.
I do worry about the Dallas defense, but you got to be honest, that front seven has some dudes now.
Yeah, and that was one thing I saw pointed out elsewhere as I was looking over some notes earlier today. That oh, I know what it was. It was a sharp better I go back and forth with pretty regularly, and in fact he makes a pick each week in my midweek NFL midweek report that's up on Fox Sports. It'll be up on Wednesday at some point.
Okay.
And his name's Randy McKay, really good guy, smart guy, and that's a game he's on. He is on the under. He got to 52 and a half somewhere, and he's on that.
Mm.
But he noted exactly what you said about Dallas's defense. He said KC isn't as explosive a team. They score with long clock consuming drives, which is why he's on the under. But he said he likes Dallas's defense. He said Dallas has greatly improved on defense with the additions it's made and getting used to Eberflus and the defense and Eberflus coaching the defense and the adjustments and so forth. He really does like Dallas's defense, to your point. So that could be a stumbling block for KC. And KC's had really a stumbling block of a season, to be honest. They were very lucky to get out of Week 12 with a win over the Colts.
Bengals Ravens, the night game, not as
Mm-hmm.
exciting as we wait for Burrow being official.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say Burrow becomes official. What do you think this drops to? 4.5?
That's a good question. The way that Casey Degnan described it again here in Vegas at the Superbook, they first off the look ahead line on this game last week was 11 and a half and it went to 10
Oh,
and a half. That was
oh,
all they did. 11 and a half, 10 and a half. And they probably got down to 10 and a half based on people assuming that Burrow was going to come back to play on Thursday night. They reopened on Sunday at 7.5, went to 7, then to 6.5, 7, 6.5. There's been a little battle over the first couple of days of the week between 7 and 6.5 on this game. And Degnan's expectation is that Burrow is going to play. He said right
hmm.
now, more on the Bengals is coming in on the spread. But he noted some of that was the look ahead line from last week where you could get double digits. If you did that, well, very good on you. You're getting the very best of
Oh,
the number. And he
amazing.
said he thinks he knows there's some from Sunday when the line was still at 7.5. He said there's really nothing too significant on Cincinnati at 7 or 6.5.
Yeah.
But there was something there because it got the Superbook and others to move down to 7 and even 6.5. So
So
they
maybe
think the
the
Bengals are going
seven,
to play.
yeah. So maybe the seven bakes in Burrow already.
I feel like it does.
Mm,
I don't think it gets down to 4.5. I mean, does
interesting.
it maybe go to 6? Possibly. Regardless, what Degnan said, he says we're still going to need the Bengals, and more likely
Yeah.
they're going to need the Bengals to win
I
outright. So the Ravens money line parlays, and if this number stays in that 6, 6.5, 7 range, the teasers come into play, Jason. So he said with Ravens money line parlays and teasers, and especially if both the early favorites win, even if they don't cover, if Kansas City wins, if Detroit wins, he said they'll be certainly looking for the Bengals to win outright in what they think is going to be the return of Joe Burrow.
Yeah. So my other read, and I haven't really seen people talk about this yet because it's, Burrow waiting, Thanksgiving, all that stuff.
Hmm.
But next week, the Ravens host the Steelers.
Hmm.
Okay. that is kind of for the division. It is a
Sure.
massive, enormous game. It's easy to, I know the Bengals are in the division and they're a rivalry
Hmm.
game, but they stink. They're not going to the playoffs. They're
Right.
cooked. I don't know how many guys in the Ravens locker room are like, oh, Bengals, yeah, we got to focus on the worst defense in the league. Or are they already thinking about hosting Pittsburgh next week in a game where they can take over first place? I know that that doesn't really mean much, but psychologically, I'm of the belief that people do get caught looking ahead, if you will.
Oh, I think they do get caught looking ahead, and this is a situation where you're also working on a short week and looking and potentially looking
Yeah.
ahead. You don't have as much time to get ready for the Bengals. Burrow comes back if he's healthy and at least close to 100%. We all know he's a fantastic quarterback, so it could be a sort of a I could see why people would think this is kind of a trap spot potentially for the Ravens, a look ahead spot where they know they've got this massive game against the Steelers. But that's not going to keep the public off Baltimore, especially in the money line parlays. They're going to be riding the Ravens in that 5 game winning streak, and if they, I mean, I know I got a 25 to 1 Ravens Super Bowl ticket when they were
Oh,
falling apart early in the season. So, and I wasn't alone. It's not like it was a sharp play or anything. I'm sure a lot of people saw some numbers that were kind of attractive and thought, gosh, if Lamar Jackson could just come back and play reasonably well, and now we've got a 5 game win streak, and they're right on, they've got Pittsburgh right where they want them basically. So I kind of hope they're dialed in, but I really just hope we see a really good game. That would be
yeah.
nice too.
Eagles are 7-point favorites against the Bears.
Hmm.
That I'm sure some people thought that was a big number initially. Bears are 8-3, little smoke and mirrors with the turnovers
Hmm.
and the comebacks. I want to take the Eagles here, but 7? I mean, Philly's had some problems against the spread this season. I think they
Yes.
I don't this is probably a stay away from me. I don't think the Bears are great, but I can see them like scratching and clawing and losing 24-20 or something.
Sure. I think I could see a game unfolding like that, especially with what we've seen from the Eagles over the past few weeks. I mean, they did look to their credit. They beat the Bears and the Lions, two of the better teams in the NFC, and two teams that are also like the Eagles high up in the Super Bowl odds. But in those two games combined, 26 points. And then they get a big old lead against Dallas and let Dallas come back and win that game. I mean, obviously Dallas should get some credit there, but still, the Eagles should have won that game. That should not have happened to a defending Super Bowl champion with the talent that team has. So I would be super wary of the Eagles. And what Casey Degnan again here in town at the Superbook said, this number's been steady at 7, but the Eagles are -7 even money, which tells you that
Mm,
this could be headed towards 6.5.
6.5. Yep.
Exactly. So if you want to get the Bears +7, you're paying -116 juice. So you got to pay a little bit of a premium there to get 7 points with the Bears. It tells you also that this is probably not going to 7.5. And what Casey said about the game, he said early, not a whole lot of action yet. I think more people, if they are focused right now, they're looking at those 3 Thanksgiving Day games. But this is going to get bet really well. And by the way, backing up really quickly, I've heard a couple of different odds makers, and I don't mean to throw this back to the Cowboys Chiefs, but they think that might be the most bet game of the regular season. They're
Wow.
they are expecting big handle on that, and I've heard
Mm.
that from Tom Gable, who works out of Borgata Sports. It's the BetMGM property in New Jersey, and also from John Murray, who runs the Superbook here in Las Vegas. They both expect really high handle for
Wow.
that Chiefs
That's crazy.
Cowboys game. And I mean to go backwards there, but what Casey said is early in the week on Bears Eagles, more Bears action, but not too much in the pot right now. Nothing really too significant. But he noted
Casual
with the
betters.
Eagles laying 7, it's kind of a similar situation as it is with the Ravens. You got a total standalone game. Granted, it's not in prime time, but it's a standalone game. He said our best case is going to be the Bears winning this outright because all the money line parlays and the teasers, the 6 point teasers and so forth,
Yep.
are going to run to Philadelphia on Friday.
I did just have to look up Ben Johnson, his last meeting against the Eagles. It was the season opener in 2022, and the Lions scored 35 on the Eagles defense. That was a good Eagles team, obviously not that
Hmm.
as good of a defense, but
Right.
I firmly believe Ben Johnson will be able to move the ball here with Caleb running. Yeah, it'd be an interesting game. I'm not taking the Bears or anything, but we'll see. Sunday, not a lot of great games. I do want to circle Niners Browns. That line is
Yep.
cratering.
Yep. Yep.
Um, it looks like the weather is going to be in the 30s with 60% chance of snow,
Hmm.
rain, and wind. Is that why this has gone down from, was it 7 to 4.5?
It's so there may have been some sevens out there to open. I'm double checking. It looks like most
Six and a half.
spots were 6.5. The
Okay.
Superbook was definitely 6.5 here in Las Vegas. And look, I think the weather is a little bit of a factor here. The Superbook has gotten as low as 4.5,
Woo.
very briefly. So, but there was, and Casey Degnan told me this, there was sharp money on the Browns at plus 6.5 on Monday, and that got them down to 5.5. And really just a few minutes after that, they even went to 5. Then they went back to 5.5, 6, and then spent a little bit of time, a cup of coffee on Tuesday at 4.5, but then pretty quickly went to 5 and then 5.5 again. I would say that this is not getting back to 6, and I think to your point, the weather is partially a factor, but there has definitely been some sharp money on the Browns when that was at 6.5, which is the high point so far this week.
So I'm sure everybody remembers the last time Brock Purdy was in Cleveland. The Niners, I'm pretty sure that was the game Trent Williams missed. Niners were undefeated
Mhm.
and they could do nothing. Now here's the real thing. Who was the quarterback of the Browns? I could give you probably I would not have guessed this in 15 guesses. Somebody named Philip Walker? I don't even know who that is, but the box score showing Philip Walker threw 2 picks for the Browns. They still won
Exactly.
because Purdy was terrible and they couldn't keep him upright. And I just wonder, can Myles Garrett wreck this game? I mean, he's on pace to break the all-time sack record.
Mhm.
And the Browns defense at home does not give up the run. Christian McCaffrey last time in Cleveland, 11 carries, 43 yards. I'm worried about the Niners here.
I would be worried about the Niners in this spot. The Niners, I, I don't feel like I said, I feel like my Denver Broncos are smoke and mirrors. I don't think the Niners are necessarily smoke and mirrors, but just the injury situation
Yeah.
and Purdy seems to be having some trouble with his throws. He certainly didn't look good for a good chunk of Monday night, even though in Week 12, even though the 49ers got there. I'd be worried about it, especially if it's bad weather and that defense. If I recall correctly, the Browns had, and again, we're talking about the Raiders here, who are really bad.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, I wouldn't bet the Raiders with your money, but they had 10 sacks in that game. 10 sacks. I mean, that's just like mind blowing. And Garrett had 3 of them, to your point about the season he's having. I would not be too enthused to take the Niners this week. I just I feel like that it's probably a stay away game, even if it somehow got back down to 4.5, or they say the weather's just going to be even more terrible than they expected and it gets lower. I just feel like that's a game I wouldn't want to mess with unless you can still get 6.5 with that Browns defense and terrible weather.
Yeah. Then you got to smash it. But 4.5 is low. Because again,
Mhm.
we didn't mention Shador Sanders. And I
Right.
know the Niners defense ain't great, but I'll tell you this. Robert Saleh against a rookie quarterback making his second start.
hmm
I'm going to take Saleh 9 times out of 10 in that matchup. Let's see. Is there anything else Sunday that jumps out at you?
Well, a couple
Uh,
of other things that the Casey Degnan bounced off me. I can run through them real quick
yeah,
if you
yeah.
want.
Let's hear it.
So Colts Texans, that's or Texans. I think it's Texans at Colts. That went from Colts 3.5 to 4.5, and Casey Degnan said there was some respected action on 3.5 on Sunday, minus 3.5 on the Colts.
Hmm.
But obviously the Texans with that defense, they're going to be live, and we don't know the whole CJ Stroud situation yet, but that's one where they saw a sharp respected play on Indianapolis early. Bill Steelers, that's just going to be a really well bet game. And what Casey Degnan said he said early tickets are about even, slightly more money on the Bills. But he noted that by the time we get to kickoff Sunday, he said, I'll be surprised if we don't need the Steelers. They'll probably want the Steelers outright because the Bills are probably going to be in the money line parlays and such. But certainly he thinks they're going to want the Steelers to cover come Sunday. That's a really good one. And then he just noted that because of the spreads in the Sunday and Monday night games being in that touchdown range, the Broncos at the Commanders, Broncos laying a touchdown ish, and then the Giants at the Patriots. He's like, listen, if the favorites have a good day on Sunday, and really even if they start with the Thursday and Friday games, but if the favorites have a good day on Sunday, they're really gonna need either the Commanders or the Giants to jump up and pull an outright upset on
Oh
Sunday
boy.
night or Monday night to knock out the parlays and the teasers.
Good luck with that. It's funny. I just noticed that. You're right. So, I had a losing week last week, but to bounce back, I always look for layups. Like a jump shooter misses like 8 in a row. Hey, man, you've got to get a layup. Just see the ball go through the hoop.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
you're right. That's Sunday night. Broncos tease down to win by win by one, and then Patriots tease down to win by 1.5,
hmm
and that seems like an easy one. I will say, I know people don't like big numbers, but Seattle and Sam Darnold against the Vikings in what is potentially a revenge spot for Sam Darnold. That
Hmm.
team, that Seattle team loves Darnold. Remember, he had the 4 picks against the Rams. They all defended him. And Seattle has really taken some teams behind the woodshed at home this year. Saints, Arizona. I wouldn't be shocked if they just said, "Hey, Sam, put it on him. We're still throwing up 30-0." That kind of deal. Because it doesn't sound like McCarthy's going to go, right? Even though he's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, if he goes or not, I'm not sure it necessarily matters. And this number is shot up. This
What are you
was
seeing now?
the Superbook opened 8 on Sunday evening, went to 8.5 within like half an hour. Very early Monday to 9, and then 9.5, 10.5. So they were at 10.5 by basically Monday afternoon Eastern time, late Monday morning here in the best time zone. So the bettors are certainly riding Seattle and
Yeah.
expecting them to show well. And like you said, it's a tremendous spot for Darnold. I'm sure he wants to show that the
Yeah, you
Vikings
could have
may
paid
have
me,
made the wrong
guys.
decision. Yep,
Yeah.
you could have paid him. That
Seattle did not cover though against Tennessee, so I wonder if some people back off and it's actually an opportunity to maybe lay it with. I know the double digits. I think you write in your column that you for Vegas Insider that you don't ever bet double digits. Well, what about Rams at Panthers? I mean, did you see the mash unit the Panthers were on Monday
yeah.
Night Football? Now they got a short week going home. I think
Hmm.
McVay is like something like 97-4 against the spread in the in the 1 p.m. window. His teams travel so well to the East
Hmm.
Coast. The Panthers have so many injuries. Listen, if J.C. Horn can't go, if McMillan is really banged up, I think two guys on the offensive line, they're so beat up. How do they stop the Rams?
Yeah, how does anybody stop the Rams at this point? Matt Stafford's having a great season. Rams are now the favorite in Super Bowl odds. I believe Stafford is the favorite in MVP odds. They're just having
Mm.
a tremendous year, and every time they're anywhere near the end zone, Devontae Adams is catching touchdowns. So um, that's that's a tough call. I'm with you on how well that team can travel and go on the road and win games and so forth. But if you had me say which double digit favorite am I going to take in week 13, I'd probably go with the 10 and a half. It looks like the Rams are 10 and a half as well. I'd probably go with Seattle at home. That offense, when it clicks, it's really, really good, and I would feel a little more comfortable with that. I think the Rams will win, of course, but if I've got to lay 10 and a half with either the Rams or the Seahawks, I'll take the Seahawks at home and let the Rams be.
Yeah. We could wrap up with this one. Is the Dolphins -6 against the Saints the biggest trap on the board? I mean, the
That's
Miami
such
Dolphins are 6-point favorites, Patrick. Just say
yeah.
that out loud. Like, what? This team was supposed to fire their coach like 4 weeks ago.
Exactly. Exactly. And not only that, this was a last week on the look ahead line at the Superbook, it was 5 Miami and then went down to 4.5. But then they came back on Sunday, reopened it 5.5, and the first move was up to 6. Um, for me, that would be a total stay away game because I just feel like there's something off there. Miami just doesn't have the consistency to say, okay, if I lay the 6, is Miami going to win by 7? I mean, you feel like some of these teams against against the Saints should be able to, pick their score basically. But the Saints have been competitive in some games and managed to cover in some games and won a couple games that people didn't expect them to win. So I would just be leaving this alone. It feels trappy, even though, unless, like you said, perhaps for Survivor, where all you got to do is win the game, don't have to cover the number, or if you tease this down or whatever. But I would consider Miami for Survivor if you don't have better options. But
Hmm.
I'm not sure I would lay the 6.
Okay. All right. Patrick Everson, he's at Vegas Insider, foxsports.com. I mean, he's got amazing content. Patrick, have a wonderful Thanksgiving, man. Keep up the great work.
Absolutely, I appreciate you having me on, and you and your family have a great Thanksgiving as well. Good luck.